The silent plea. The message came through the quantum relay with barely enough integrity to be understood. Static crackled through the transmission, but the fear in the voice was unmistakable. This is Governor Talon of Helios 9. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. The Cadrian Empire has breached our outer defenses. Civilian casualties mounting. Our defense force is overwhelmed, requesting immediate assistance from any allied forces in range. Please, they're slaughtering us. The message repeated twice before dissolving into static. In the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations sat in uncomfortable silence. The Cadrian Empire's ambassador was conspicuously absent, recalled just hours before the attack began. High Counselor Vereen of the Ardeni Confederacy broke the silence, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with agitation. This is a clear violation of the Treaty of Rigel. The Cadrians have no territorial claim to the Helios system. True, rumbled Ambassador Grox of the Thrax hierarchy, his massive reptilian frame shifting in a seat too small for his species. But Helios 9 is an isolated human colony beyond the Council's protected zones. The treaty does not explicitly cover it. That's semantics, Vereen countered. We all know what this is, the Cadrians testing our resolve. The Meridian representative, a crystalline being who communicated through precisely modulated light pulses, flashed in disagreement. The Cadrians possessed the third largest battle fleet in known space. Intervention would risk full-scale war for a human colony of just 8 million. The calculation is simple. So we do nothing. Vereen's bioluminescence flared bright with indignation. The Council's chief arbiter, an ancient Voran whose species had brokered peace for millennia, raised a gnarled appendage. We will condemn the action through official channels and impose economic sanctions. While Helios 9 burns, Vereen muttered. The humans on the colony knew the risks of settling beyond protected space, the Thrax ambassador said dismissively, and Earth itself lacks the military capability to challenge the Cadrians. They have only been spacefaring for 2 centuries, barely children in galactic terms. In the observation gallery, Earth's junior representative to the Council, Commander Aisha Katri, quietly slipped away. The debate would continue for hours, but she already knew the outcome. The Council would deliberate until there was nothing left to save on Helios 9. She accessed a secure communication terminal in the Earth Embassy and entered a series of commands that would trigger a protocol that had never been used before. Protocol Thanatos. The response came within minutes. 2 words that sent a chill down her spine. THANATO authorized. Admiral James Chen stood on the bridge of the EDF Nemesis, the flagship of Earth's First Fleet. Behind him, the massive view screen showed the orbital shipyards of Mars, where dozens of warships hung in the void like predators waiting to strike. Message from Earth Command. Sir, his communications officer reported. Priority Alpha. Authorization code verified. Chen felt a tightness in his chest. Put it through. The message was brief. THANATO is authorized. Helios 9 under KHADRIAN ATCK. Council non interior v intion. Co-HFY Armada. Deploy all ASSETIS. Chen didn't hesitate. Alert all fleet commanders. Activation order Thanatos. I want every combat-ready vessel mobilized within the hour. His executive officer, Commander Valentina Sokolov, approached with a concerned expression. Sir, deploying all assets will leave Sol's system with minimal defenses. Chen nodded grimly. I'm aware, Commander. But if we let the Cadrians slaughter our people on Helios 9, we might as well paint targets on every human settlement beyond Earth. The Council. The Council has made their position clear, Chen interrupted. They've decided that human lives are an acceptable sacrifice to avoid confronting the Cadrians. We disagree. Across the Sol system, klaxons blared as Earth Defense Force personnel scrambled to their stations. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid belts, concealed in the atmospheres of gas giants, or disguised as civilian vessels, began powering up their systems. For decades, Earth had been quietly building its military strength while presenting an image of technological inferiority to the wider galaxy. The species that had nearly destroyed itself in countless wars before reaching the stars had never forgotten how to fight. They had simply chosen a more strategic approach to survival in a galaxy filled with ancient powers. Within 3 hours, 117 warships had formed up near the Jupiter jump point, a force 3 times larger than any intelligence estimate of Earth's military capabilities. The Nemesis moved to the head of the formation. Admiral Chen stood before the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is Admiral Chen. In approximately 12 hours, we will arrive at Helios 9, where our colony is under attack by Cadrian forces. The Galactic Council has decided not to intervene." He paused, his voice hardening. "They believe we lack the strength and resolve to defend our own. They believe we will accept the loss of 8 million lives as the cost of keeping the peace. They are wrong." Throughout the fleet, thousands of men and women listened in silence. The Cadrians have never faced humanity in battle. They know nothing of our history, our determination, or our capacity for violence when provoked. Today, they will learn. Chen's eyes swept across his bridge crew, seeing the same steely resolve he felt. "We have trained for this day since the first human ship ventured beyond our solar system. We hoped it would never come. But make no mistake, we are ready." "Jump drives charged, Admiral," reported the navigation officer. Chen nodded. "All ships, prepare for jump. Remember what we fight for today. Not just the lives on Helios 9, but the message we send to the galaxy. Humanity protects its own." The massive fleet aligned with the jump point, their drives creating ripples in space-time as they prepared to tear open shortcuts through the fabric of reality. Jump. One by one, the warships vanished in flashes of blue-white energy, leaving only the echo of their passage in the empty space where they had been. On Helios 9, Governor Avon Talon huddled with the remaining colonial leadership in the emergency bunker beneath New Anchorage, the colony's capital. The bunker had been designed to withstand orbital bombardment, but the Cadrians had deployed ground forces instead, their cybernetically enhanced soldiers methodically moving through the city above. "Southern districts have gone dark," reported Security Chief Maya Santos, her uniform stained with blood from a wound in her shoulder. "Northern quadrant is holding for now, but they're running low on ammunition." Talon nodded wearily. He had aged decades in the 3 days since the invasion began. "And the evacuation ships?" Santos shook her head. "The Cadrians shot down 3 of the 5. The others made it to hyperspace, but with the Cadrian blockade in orbit, we can't launch anymore." "How many got out?" "Maybe 6,000, mostly children." Talon closed his eyes briefly. 6,000 out of 8 million. Any response to our distress calls?" Communications Director Jarej Novak shook his head. "Nothing from the Council. Nothing from the neighboring systems. Nothing from Earth. They've abandoned us," someone muttered. Talon couldn't argue. Helios 9 had been established as a mining colony 30 years ago, when the discovery of rare transuranic elements had promised wealth and prosperity. Few had considered the strategic vulnerability of a human settlement so far from Earth, in a sector dominated by other powers. "Chief Santos," Talon said quietly, "how much longer can we hold out?" Santos didn't soften her answer. "At current rates of attrition, less than 48 hours. Maybe less if they bring in more ground forces." A young lieutenant burst into the room, breathing hard. "Sir, we're picking up massive energy signatures at the edge of the system." Talon felt his heart sink. "Cadrian reinforcements?" "No, sir." The lieutenant's voice trembled. They're using Earth jump signatures, hundreds of them." For a moment, no one moved or spoke. Then Novak lunged for the communications console, his fingers flying across the controls. "I'm picking up a transmission on a standard Earth Defense Force frequency." He opened the channel, and a voice filled the room, calm, authoritative, and unmistakably human. "This is Admiral James Chen of the Earth Defense Force First Fleet to all Helios 9 colonial forces. Hold your positions. I repeat, hold your positions. We have arrived with 117 warships and are engaging the Cadrian blockade. Reinforcements are inbound to your position. You are not alone. Earth stands with Helios 9. For the first time in days, Governor Talon felt something other than despair. It wasn't quite hope, not yet, but it was the knowledge that whatever happened next, his people would not die abandoned and forgotten. "Earth," Santos whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. Earth actually came. When Earth shows its teeth, Admiral Varric of the Cadrian Empire stood on the command deck of the Subjugator, his flagship and the pride of the Imperial fleet. Before him, the holographic display showed the 26 warships under his command, maintaining their blockade of the human colony below. The operation had proceeded exactly as planned. The humans' primitive defenses had crumbled quickly, and their ground forces were being systematically eliminated by Cadrian shock troops. Another day, perhaps two, and resistance would be crushed entirely. The colony's resources would belong to the Empire, and the Galactic Council had proven as spineless as expected. "Admiral," his sensor officer called, "we're detecting spatial distortions at the system's edge. Jump signatures incoming." Varric felt a flicker of annoyance. "Identification. Analyzing now," the officer replied, before hesitating. "Sir, these appear to be Earth signatures." Varric's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of disbelief in his species. "Earth? Impossible. Their fleet consists of no more than 40 vessels, most of them retrofitted civilian ships." "Sir, I'm counting. 75, 90, over 100 vessels. They're still arriving." For the first time in his 30-year military career, Admiral Varric felt uncertain. Intelligence reports had consistently assessed Earth as a minor power with limited military capability, focused primarily on trade and colonization. "Full scan. I want to know exactly what we're facing." The results came in moments later, and the command deck fell silent as the holographic display updated with the approaching Earth fleet. 117 warships, many of them matching or exceeding Cadrian vessels in size. The formations were precise, indicating professional military discipline. "How did they hide this?" Varric muttered. His executive officer, a veteran of 3 campaigns, had no answer. "Orders, Admiral." Varric considered his options. His force was outnumbered nearly 5-1, but Cadrian warships were technologically superior to anything humans could field. Their armor was impenetrable to standard weapons, their shields could withstand sustained bombardment, and their targeting systems were accurate to within meters at ranges of thousands of kilometers. "Maintain blockade formation," Varric commanded. "Launch all fighter squadrons. Prepare main batteries for long-range engagement." He would bloody this human fleet, teach them the folly of challenging the Empire. Even if he couldn't win today, he would ensure the humans paid dearly for their intervention. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human flagship." "Put it through," Varric ordered, curious what the humans would say before dying. A human male appeared on the screen, wearing a dark uniform adorned with insignia Varric didn't recognize. "This is Admiral James Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You are engaged in an illegal military action against a sovereign human colony. Withdraw your forces immediately, or we will remove them." Varric let out a bark of laughter. "This is Admiral Varric of the Imperial Cadrian Navy. Your colony has encroached on territory claimed by the Empire. Your presence here is noted, but irrelevant. I suggest you return to your homeworld before you lose your primitive fleet." The human's expression didn't change. "You were warned." The transmission cut off, and Varric turned back to the tactical display. "Target their lead vessels. Let's show them what happens when they—" "Sir." Multiple new signatures appearing within our formation. Varric spun toward the display. Somehow, smaller Earth vessels had appeared among his fleet, not at the edges where they should have emerged from hyperspace, but directly amidst his carefully arranged formation. Impossible. Nothing can jump with that precision. Before he could issue new orders, explosions blossomed across his fleet, not from external fire, but from within. The smaller Earth vessels, barely larger than shuttles, had materialized inside the defensive perimeters of his warships and were firing at point-blank range. "They're using micro-jump technology," his science officer said in disbelief. "Short-range spatial manipulation to bypass our outer defenses." 3 Cadrian cruisers erupted in flames simultaneously. On the tactical display, the main human fleet accelerated toward them, but in an unusual formation, not the broad attack lines typical of conventional space combat, but a narrow spearhead aimed directly at the subjugator. "Evasive maneuvers," Varric ordered. "All ships, concentrate fire on that formation." His remaining vessels responded, their advanced targeting systems locking onto the approaching human ships. Energy weapons lashed out, striking Earth vessels with pinpoint accuracy. But instead of exploding or veering off, the damaged human ships accelerated, deliberately colliding with Cadrian warships in massive explosions. "They're using suicide tactics," his executive officer said in horror. Varric watched in disbelief as human fighters swarmed his fleet, ignoring their own losses to inflict maximum damage. Where Cadrian pilots would carefully preserve their expensive craft, human pilots drove their vessels directly into vulnerable points on Cadrian ships after depleting their weapons. "Sir, we've lost 11 ships already. The human flagship is approaching rapidly." On the display, Varric saw the massive black vessel, the Nemesis, cutting through space toward him, shrugging off hits that should have crippled it. Behind it came the rest of the human fleet, no longer in formation, but attacking opportunistically, exploiting every gap in the Cadrian defenses. "What are they doing now?" Varric demanded as the human vessels suddenly ceased fire and began deploying smaller objects. His science officer analyzed the data. "They appear to be mining the space around our remaining ships with primitive nuclear devices." "Nuclear?" Varric scoffed. "Our shields can easily—" The science officer interrupted, his voice tight. "Sir, they're not just nuclear. They're salted with elements that will create an electromagnetic pulse wave when detonated. Our shields don't block that kind of radiation." Before Varric could respond, the mines detonated simultaneously. The command deck lights flickered and died as systems throughout the ship failed. Emergency power activated moments later, but the damage was done. Across his fleet, ships drifted powerless, their advanced weapons and defenses temporarily neutralized. "Status report," Varric demanded. 17 ships destroyed, 9 disabled, including the subjugator. Main weapons offline, shields offline, engine control limited. Through the viewport, Varric watched as Earth vessels surrounded his crippled fleet. The Nemesis took position directly above the subjugator, its weapons ports open but silent, a predator standing over wounded prey. The communication system crackled to life, Admiral Chen's voice filling the command deck once more. "Admiral Varric, your fleet is defeated. Your ground forces are being eliminated as we speak. You have one opportunity to surrender. Order all Cadrian personnel to lay down their weapons and prepare for evacuation from Helios 9. Varric's pride demanded resistance, but his military training recognized the inevitable. "And if I refuse?" "Then we will continue until no Cadrian remains in this system," Chen replied simply. "You have 5 minutes to decide." As the transmission ended, Varric's executive officer approached. "Sir, we still have ground forces. We could fight on." "To what end?" Varric interrupted. "Look at them, Exarch. Look at how they fight." He gestured toward the viewport, where the human fleet maintained its position, weapons trained on the surviving Cadrian vessels. "The Council said they were peaceful traders. Our intelligence said they were technologically inferior, but they concealed their true strength, developed weapons specifically designed to counter our advantages, and fought with a savagery I have never witnessed. Varric made his decision. Send the surrender signal. Order all ground forces to stand down. As the orders went out, Varric continued to study the human fleet. We completely misunderstood them, he said quietly. They let us believe they were weak. They let everyone believe it. 3 days after the battle, Governor Talon stood with Admiral Chen on a hillside overlooking New Anchorage. Below them, Earth medical personnel worked alongside colonial doctors, treating the wounded. Marine squads escorted Cadrian prisoners to temporary holding facilities, while engineering teams began rebuilding critical infrastructure. The death toll? Chen asked. Talon sighed heavily. Nearly 2 million. Most before you arrived. Chen nodded, his face grim. The Cadrians will pay reparations. The Council has already approved the sanctions. The same Council that refused to help us. They're suddenly very concerned about Cadrian aggression, Chen said with a thin smile. Having their intelligence assessments of Earth's military capability proven so catastrophically wrong has made them reconsider their positions. Talon looked at the Admiral. Why did Earth hide its true strength all these years? Chen gazed out at the horizon, where several Earth warships hovered protectively. Humanity's history is written in blood, Governor. When we reached the stars and found civilizations thousands of years older than our own, we knew we couldn't compete openly. So we presented what they expected to see, an eager, somewhat naive young species focused on trade and cultural exchange, while secretly building one of the largest fleets in the galaxy. We hoped never to use it, Chen said. But we remembered our own history too well to believe that peace would last forever. So we prepared. We studied every major power, identified their weaknesses, and developed countermeasures. When the Cadrians attacked, we were ready. Talon was quiet for a moment. What happens now? Now the galaxy understands something fundamental about humanity that they didn't before, Chen replied. We will not abandon our own. No matter the distance, no matter the odds, we will come. And when we do, we come to win. In orbit above them, the Earth fleet maintained its vigil, a steel promise against the darkness of space. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as the peaceful traders they had pretended to be, but as warriors who had merely been holding their breath. The galaxy would never underestimate them again.